What's going on, everybody? This is Sean of Raw Select Music, and today I want to talk about this record right here. This is Sam Wilkes' Wilkes, released on Leaving Records this year, 2018. This was a record that I was really excited to listen to coming off the heels of the tracks Tonight and Descending. Both of them really stood out to me as being some of the most exciting, interesting, unique music that I had heard all this year. So coming off of those two tracks, I really wanted to hear what Sam Wilkes had in store for the entire length of an album. And now that I've given it quite a few listens, I feel like I'm ready to share my thoughts and opinions of this record with you and let you know whether or not I think it's worth checking out. So, with that little introduction out of the way, let's get into this guy. So for those of you who are unaware of who Sam Wilkes is, maybe you might have heard of Louis Cole, who is actually featured on this album. He's pretty much well known for sort of making meme-esque music on YouTube. They blow up, go pretty viral. The most recent Louis Cole track that comes to mind that I can think of is Fuck It Up, which actually has Sam Wilkes playing bass in the video. So Sam Wilkes is a bass player slash producer slash multi-instrumentalist. He does it all on this album, whether it's sort of the electronic side of the production on here, as well as a whole host of other instruments. The main thing for me was, as much as I was interested in the music on here, another name that popped up, and that would be Sam Gendel, who as of late has become one of my favorite modern saxophonists right now. The way he plays sax is just like unlike anything I've heard in recent memory, save Colin Stetson and the stuff that he's done with Bad Bad Not Good. I absolutely love his emotive, semi-experimental stuff. I'd really like to get a hold of his saxophone experiment records where it's just him playing around with not only sax but different sorts of found sounds that you can get from fiddling around with the keys on it and things like that. So seeing Sam Gendel's name pop up on this record really even made me more excited for it. And then the more that I dove into this record, the more that I discovered that as much as I proclaimed that Leon Vinehall's Nothing Is Still was my favorite record of 2016, I gotta say I think this album actually blew that one out of the water for me. And I think largely just due in part because as much as I love the Leon Vinehall record, and don't get me wrong, it is still one of my favorite records of 2018, unquestionably. But the reason I put this record ahead of that one is because I can listen to this record in any mood. Leon Vinehall, I really do, now that I've listened to it quite a few times, I have to be in a certain mindset and a certain mood to listen to it. I can listen to this anytime. I still get goosebumps from it every time that I listen to it. And God's honest truth, there's just something about this record that I can't quite put my finger on, but it's just the best music that I've heard this year, and not only this year, in a very long time. But, I mean, all that sort of hyperbole out of the way, I still don't think it really describes what the sound you're getting when you actually listen to this record. To give you an idea in sort of the laziest, loosest sense, Wilkes is an ambient spiritual jazz record. There's lots of elements of electronic music, there's lots of sort of spiritual jazz in here, and as far as my sort of understanding of spiritual jazz, it's sort of free jazz, but it has a little bit of a pop element to it. It sort of morphs rather than just feeling like hard bop where everybody takes their chance to do a solo. It's sort of like all work together into the composition. I'm really just speaking out of my ass, but that's sort of the way that I look at it. So the first track on here, Welcome, sets the mood quite nicely, where it's a nice little mood piece. It's got some really nice warm atmospheric keys that kick things off, and then it's all driven by Sam Gendel's, and I really hope I'm saying your name right. If you're watching this and I've mispronounced it, my apologies. Sam Gendel's saxophone really takes the lead on this track and just creates this just absolutely beautiful atmosphere that's so warm. You just want to get wrapped up in it. These are usually the terms that I use to describe ambient music like that. It sets the mood nicely. It's not too long, so it really just gives you a taste of what's in store over the course of the rest of the album. From there, it goes into the track Today, which has almost like a sitar that kicks things off and then once again leads in with some beautiful saxophone work from Sam Gendel, which really again sets the mood. It's got a bit of like almost like it's got a certain mood to it that I can really get behind, and it leads in beautifully to one of the best tracks on here, and that's Run, which is sort of like Welcome except extended into a 6 or 7 minute song with tons of lush atmosphere, an amazing saxophone solo from Sam Gendel again, and it's enveloping. You just really just get washed over and wrapped up into this song. And absolutely one of the major highlights on this record. And then it moves into the song Tonight, which I already talked about fairly in depth in a WordPress post that I did before this album came out. But it's definitely one of the more straightforward, beat-heavy jazz numbers, and that is due in no small part to some fantastic drumming from Lewis Cole. Again, lots of atmosphere. It's almost got a little bit of an IDM feel to it with some of the electronic bleeps and bloops and shit that go on in the track, and it's a track that I can come back to over and over again. And it's definitely one of my favorite songs of 2018, which leads into the musical orgasm that is Hug. Hug is my absolute, unquestionably favorite song on this record. It feels just like an absolute burst of musical joy, and every time that I listen to it, it just puts a smile on my face because of that squealing saxophone solo and everybody just sort of coming together and really just creating music magic. And then the album is wrapped up by the last track on here, Descending, which is actually a bit of a departure from everything else that's on the record and sort of leaves behind the jazz territory and goes for more of an ambient sort of post-rocky track that just slowly sort of continues to build around the musical theme that started at the beginning of the track and just slowly add more and more layers to the song as it plays out its duration. And it's a kind of low-key end to an album, especially after the sort of bombasticness of Hug, but it fits the end of the album perfectly, and it's, again, one of my favorite tracks of this year. It doesn't play into the sort of jazz aspects of the rest of the album. It still feels consistent with the rest of this record. And a friend of mine had pointed out to me, now that I forgot to mention it, is that there is sort of a subtle progression throughout this entire record where every song seems to lead sort of tangentially into the next track. Welcome leads into Today, which has sort of a similar atmosphere, which all of it seems to be building towards Hug, which is the sort of climax of the album before hitting the falling action of the record, which is the track Descending. Now, I could probably go on and on about how much I love this record, and it'd probably just be me rambling for another 20 minutes as to why I honestly think this is the best record of 2018. But I'm gonna try to keep this as brief as humanly possible. If you like semi-experimental music, check this album out. If you like ambient music, check this album out. If you like jazz music, check this album out. Even if you don't like any of those genres that I just mentioned, check this album out anyways, because this to me feels like how music should sound. It is an absolute burst of musical inspiration and just musical joy that I haven't heard pretty much since Bad Bad Not Good's 4, and I cannot recommend this album enough. So I gotta say, Sam Wilkes, this is my album of 2018, just barely nudging out Leon Vinehall's Nothing Is Still also a great record, and definitely check that one out too. But yeah, this album, best record of 2018, and cannot recommend it enough. So that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you checked this album out, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, head over to my WordPress and Steemit blogs because that's where I put musical links so you can check out the album for yourself. Also, check out my Mixcloud page because that's where I upload my Raw Select radio show, which is basically the audio component to this Raw Select YouTube channel. So you can listen to not only some of the records that I talk about in these reviews, but also check out some of the other music that I don't get a chance to talk about on this YouTube channel. So, once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. So until then, peace out!